Hello, my name is Linda Garofalo, and I'm pleased to include this video on the importance of parent touch to the video series our center has created to offer support and resources during the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, it was easy for parents to underestimate just how important their touch is to their children's healthy development. But now that coronavirus has transformed touch into a danger, and children are missing out on so many of the natural ways that touch comes into their daily lives, like hugs and cuddles and kisses from grandparents, aunts, and uncles, the free and tumble play with friends, that we especially include this video to look more deeply at how a parent's attuned touch is now more important than ever. For those of you who have seen other videos in our series, I apologize for the repetition of the next two slides, but for those of you new to our videos, they're designed to provide parents and professionals with helpful information and insights to better understand and respond to the children in their care, especially during these times of heightened stress and trauma. Each of the videos is on a specific topic in the field of infant and early childhood mental health. Each is 15 to 20 to 25 minutes long. We invite you to share them freely wherever you think they might be of help. We only require that no fee be charged for the viewing, and each video should not be altered. Excuse me. We often get this question, what is infant and early childhood mental health? So this slide will give a little synopsis of that it's an interdisciplinary field that's concerned with the full development of a child within the context of his or her family. And central to our own center's philosophy is the belief that it's really emotional and relational well-being that is the foundation of all developmental and educational progress. And the field involves a child's capacities to attach and self-regulate in healthy ways, to be able to engage in loving reciprocal relationships and to represent the world in language, to be able to experience the full range of human emotions and engage in shared emotional thinking and productive activities, and to be able to sustain intimate and caring, mutually interdependent relationships. Today, I'm going to touch on just a few topics that are from courses and workshops that I've been teaching over the past 25 years about how touch affects every aspect of a child's growth and development. And in the next few minutes, I'll include highlights from those courses that will help to illustrate just how crucial healthy, nurturing touch is. We'll look at how touch is a heart-to-heart connection because it creates this immediate two-way connection that can literally link us heart to heart. I'll point out some of the forgotten aspects of our history and culture that lead us to think, or more precisely, to not think about the importance of touch. And I'll illustrate just how closely touch is connected to the brain and brain health, that it serves as both the literal foundation for brain growth and for a child's healthy development. Then I'll briefly introduce you to a fascinating new area of research that illuminates the neuroscience underlying parents' touch. And we'll end by showing a simple yet effective touch technique that you can use to help your child feel a sense of calm, connection, and safety, especially during stressful times. When we think about touch, we think about an action, something we do. We reach out and touch someone or something, but touch is so much more. It's a reciprocal interaction, and it's a communication, and it's a communication that creates relationship. And touch is a unique sense in that way because it has an instantaneous two-way communication. You can't touch without being touched. Hearing, smelling, tasting are all one-directional senses. We're taking sensory information in from the world outside. But touch has this special capacity to give us this simultaneous two-way feedback. When we touch, we are touched in return. And it establishes an immediate connection through our skin, our nerves, right into our brains, where it provides this felt inner experience of our body, which allows us to have a sense of self, which allows us to have a sense of others. It conveys a vitality and an immediacy more powerful than words, and it creates a link that makes a literal heart-to-heart connection. And we'll see it makes a brain-to-brain connection too. And while all of that is happening, it's triggering a release of a cascade of neurohormones that literally shape our feelings of love, compassion, and trust. Research has shown that just a 20-second hug releases a flood of oxytocin into our systems, and that's been called the love or the bonding hormone. And at the same time, it's reducing our stress hormones, and that creates a sense of calm, connection, and safety. The reason I include this next slide about our culture is that I believe that we live in a culture that's really lost touch with the importance of touch. And historically, there are many factors that have been forgotten that have led touch to be stigmatized in our culture. And interestingly, for our time, fear of germs is one of them. In the late 1800s, against the backdrop of Pasteur's new germ theory, a mother's touch was considered to literally crawl with infection. Mothers were warned by doctors to never kiss your baby because it spreads germs and it looks immoral. And in 1928, one of the most prominent physicians who had just published a book on infant and child care led a crusade against the evils of affection. He warned that a mother's touch and love is a dangerous instrument that always produces invalidism. So we have this long history, and that and other factors in our culture has led us to either be confused or often to not think about touch at all. Even while there's been a vast body of medical research in the last 15 years that has really proven the critical importance of touch, and not just for children, but for adults alike. So even though this history is forgotten, the stigma that we may not even be aware of remains. Yet for hundreds of centuries, grandmothers in traditional cultures have understood this need for daily, organized, rhythmic touch. They knew instinctively that it helped their babies sleep and eat better, helped them get along socially, and helped them grow up healthier. So I've put together just some short video clips that show the way that grandmothers in traditional cultures around the world have passed down the ritual of touch through infant massage from generation to generation. The first video clip shows a grandmother in a rural Nigerian village doing the daily routine the way it's been done for hundreds of years. You'll notice at first she warms her hands on the coals, and then she presses that warmth into the baby's body. When the baby is first born, the grandmother comes, and part of taking care of the mother is to do the daily massage for the baby. You just saw the mother who was sitting at her side. For the first 40 days, the grandmother does the massage. The mother watches and learns, and after 40 days, the mother takes over the routine. You can see the grandmother pressing this warmth into the baby's body with these deep rhythmical movements. In this way, the tradition has been passed down from generation to generation because they knew instinctively it was what babies needed to grow in the healthiest ways. The next video is of a mother in a modern suburban Nigerian home. Even though it's a modern home in the city, she uses the same techniques as the grandmothers for hundreds of years before her. She warms her hands on the coals and then presses the warmth into the baby's body with these deep rhythmical movements. You'll see that the baby gets so relaxed. You see that little yawn and his body just relaxing. And that yawn is a sign of a deep relaxation response. This next video is of a grandmother in India, where the culture has a similar tradition. For the first 40 days, the cultural tradition is to completely support the mother and the baby. And in the same way, the grandmother does the massage for the first 40 days. The mother sits at her side and watches and learns. The mother often gets a massage herself. The Indian routine is a little more vigorous. And the grandmother, instead of warming her hands on the coals, uses traditional Indian oils. Mustard oil in the winter because it's just as warming as the coals, and then coconut oil in the summer. These deep rhythmical movements. Scientists are just now finding what grandmothers have known for centuries. Studies are showing just how this kind of touch is an integral part of the healthy working of every system in our bodies. The very same strokes can be effective today. And in the next slides, I'll illustrate a wide range of effects that these wonderfully nurturing strokes are having in the baby's body. I start with this touch-brain connection because it's such an important part of the foundation of a child's development. Touch is a basic human need, what scientists call skin hunger or touch hunger. Our brains and our nervous systems are literally hardwired for touch. Just as we cannot live without air, water, food, we literally cannot survive without touch. It's the first sense to develop in the embryo, and the skin and the brain develop from exactly the same layer of primitive cells that create the boundary of the embryo. By the fourth week in the embryo, the outer layer of those primitive cells becomes our skin tissues, while the inner layer of cells enfolds into the embryo to become the neural tissues of our brain and our nervous system. So you can really think of the skin as the external portion of the nervous system. Then this embryonic skin tissue becomes the matrix from which all of the rest of the sensory organs evolve. The eyes, the ears, the taste buds, the olfactory cells. It's for this reason that the skin and touch is known as the mother of all senses and the foundation upon which all the other senses are based. And the neurons of touch are not just the foundation for the senses, but they're truly the foundation for our brain development. If you remember how these inner cells enfold into the embryo and become the brain and the central nervous system, the cells of touch are the first neurons to wire together in the brain, and those initial connections become the basis for all further skills and capacities that a child develops. The pyramid of learning that you see here gives us a picture of how touch truly sits at the base of an organized and orderly development. Each skill and capacity is built upon those that came before, and touch, balance, and our proprioceptive sense provide the foundation for it all. This means that all awareness and learning literally starts in the body, and all future connections for awareness, for sensory motor, for perceptual motor, our language, our behavior, and all learning are built upon these early sensory connections. And it's the types of touch a child receives both in the womb and then in those earliest hours, the earliest days, and the earliest years of life that create this solid foundation of basic neural networks from which all further growth and development happens. One of the most fascinating things about touch is that it is the only sense that creates this complete anatomical map of the body in the brain. And it's the touch stimulation that a child receives as it's growing that creates this map. This map is etched on to the somatosensory cortex in our brains. And each area of the body is represented by all of the thousands and millions of little nerve endings in this area of the brain. As an example, when we touch our child's hand, our baby's hand, the connection in the brain says, this is my hand. And that connection is what builds the ability to use the hand. All of the other senses orient to this map for the feedback necessary to organize all of the other sensory input. And in this way, touch unites and integrates all of the channels of the senses. We also use this map to put together where we are in space, what we see, what we hear. It gives us the body awareness that's necessary for all of our coordinated motor skills and our movements. And importantly, we have to have this sense of our bodies in order to have a sense of ourselves, where we are in space, how all of our parts fit together. And we need that sense of self in order for us to develop a sense of the other person. So touch literally gives us the basis for our social skills. It's where all empathy begins. It's truly where our humanity begins. You can think about touch like food for the brain. Each and every touch activates millions of tiny sensory nerves in the surface of the skin that all send messages to the brain, releasing a cascade of neurochemicals and neuropeptides that trigger a vast range of vital growth and metabolic processes, from digestion to respiration to cardiovascular health, even the health of our immune system, and even some protein synthesis needs a certain type of touch to develop. And all of those nerve endings in the skin are literally just one synapse, just one nerve connection away from the self-regulating systems in a child's brains. That's why a parent's attuned touch has this amazing ability to dial down the stress alarm for their children, to convey a sense of affection, and to help guide their child to that calm, receptive mode where they feel safe and ready to meet the world. This is where the thinking brain turns on, and that's the place that all learning, growth, social connection, and development takes place. More importantly, a parent's attuned touch not only calms their child in the moment, it also awakens the circuits in the child to develop that capacity to self-regulate themselves over time. So the parents help co-regulate the child in the early years, and as they do that, it's helping to build that capacity in the child. And a parent's touch is more important to their child than anybody else's. Children respond faster, they calm more quickly, and they are more reassured by their parent's touch than anyone else's. One of my favorite areas of brain research right now is in the neuroscience of parents' touch. And it's just been in the past 15, 20 years that neuroscientists have discovered an entirely different network of touch fibers. It's almost like we have an actual nervous system that's just dedicated to the pleasurable and affectionate touch that parents use. These newly identified nerve fibers are different from the fast-acting touch fibers, which relay sensations of temperature, texture, pain, and touch. These are the ones we've known about for years. If we touch our finger to a hot stove, we pull it away immediately. Those signals go so quickly to the brain, it bypasses thinking and we just react. They're called C-tactile nerve fibers. And they're special because they are tuned to the slower rhythms that convey affection and emotions, and that's what creates our social bonds. They hold the key to our early parental bonding for children, and as adults, they hold the key to our lifelong, intimate social connections. And they're uniquely wired to two areas in the brain. If you remember the somatosensory cortex, where all of our fast-acting touch fibers are wired, that area I showed in a previous slide. So these fibers are wired both to the somatosensory area, but also to the emotional areas in the brain. And it is this unique wiring that allows us to not just feel the sensation of touch on our skin, but to also feel the emotional experience that it conveys. It is this feelings of pleasure and safety of social contact. And they're the perfect highway to convey a sense of connection and safety to help your child through even the most challenging and stressful times. So I'll end by showing you this very simple touch technique for calm and connection during these stressful times. But before we start, I just want to give a couple of tips. First one for parents is that in time, this should be as soothing, relaxing for you to give as it is for your children to get your lovely touch routines. So make sure you're comfortable and that you're relaxed. Remember, our C-tactile highway conveys both your touch and your feelings, so you can loan your own sense of calm to your kids. This may not sound so easy at the end of an exhausting day, but if you simply start with your breath, it can help to bring that sense of relaxation into your own body. We all hear about taking a deep breath, but that's only part of it. The real key to our breath is that long, slow exhalation. It's really that part of the breath that engages that part of our nervous system that's our rest, relax, restore, and relate part of our nervous system. And again, in time, I do hope that you find these little connections with your children through touch to be as soothing and relaxing for you as they are as your children. They've actually, a research study has shown that grandmothers giving massages get the same, all of the same physiologic responses in their own body as the children do. Second is, I always encourage parents to start by warming your hands. If you remember the grandmothers warming their hands on the coals. And what we're doing is we're bringing the warmth of our hands to our children. And we also always start by asking permission. And asking permission does several important things. First, it establishes a sense of respect and a sense for the child of being listened to. It also establishes a sense that your child has the right to control where and how they are being touched. Even if children don't have language yet, they may not understand the words, but they do understand the respect that's in your heart when you ask these questions. So the technique that I'm going to show you in this next instructional video is called making a connection. It's something that you can use anytime you need just to bring a sense of calm and connection for your child, whether you're home, you're out in a store, a meltdown might be happening. Best to always do this before the meltdown gets full blown. But it is actually one of the 12 movements of the Qigong sensory treatment. This was a treatment developed by a pediatrician and my mentor, Dr. Louisa Silva. For short, it's called QST, and she developed it as an at-home parent-delivered treatment because she understood parents were the most important person to be doing this. And it's been proven effective for children from toddlerhood through adolescence across a wide range of conditions, including sensory and behavioral problems associated with autism, problems with sleep and digestion, tantrums, aggression, attention, social skills. This website you can go to if you would like further information or parent instruction materials. And the technique you'll see is just one part of the full QST daily protocol that parents do at home. At our center, we offer parent trainings in this at-home protocol as part of our interdisciplinary approach to family and relationship-based care. So what you'll see as the video begins is the movement is called making a connection, shoulders to hands. And we're going to use, if you remember those wonderful connection movements that the grandmother was using, we're going to use those same types of slow, deep pressure movements. And you'll see Dr. Silva demonstrate the technique first to a mother of an infant and then to a mother of a toddler. So this is the first movement of the QST sensory protocol, making a connection, shoulders to hands.
We're going to lay you down. And so we're going to start by making a connection. We're going to go from your shoulders to your hands, just squeezing a little bit, bringing the awareness to the skin and let the blood flow to the muscles. Look at you. Let's see. Yeah. Does it make you want to wiggle and move? Just keep going. You're going to do that 5, 6, 8 times. Yeah.
And if children are receptive to touch, a hand on the chest is a lovely calming effect.
It's the whole soft body. Yeah. Good job.
See how her eyes brighten and she smiles and starts to talk when her mom is doing the routine. This next little video is from a parent training in the QST sensory protocol. And this is showing how two parents can use that first movement at night. A lovely way for family to make that connection and wind down from busy days. So grandmothers knew through their instincts and cultural traditions what science now understands. And now we can bring the best of both of those worlds through our touch to our children. Feel free to rewind and look at this video again if you like, but also remember the simplest things can also be so soothing. Just a simple back rub, a hand massage, a foot massage before sleep is a wonderful way to unwind the day and make a connection with your kids. Kids have a touch deficit these days, and so do all adults. So it's a lovely way. I hope that this helps you to find some peaceful and quiet moments of connection during these difficult times. You really can't go wrong if you just follow your instincts and listen to your child. This is where the communication part comes in. We offer our touch, and then we listen to how our child responds. Is there a calming response? Is there a connecting response? For children who are verbal, they can actually tell you. But for children without language, they tell you through their body and their behavioral cues. Watch, listen, trust your instincts, and enjoy. For those of you who may have questions about any of the research or information I spoke about, there's this quick bibliography at the back. And this slide gives just an overview of some of the many, many wonderful resources and programs we offer through the Center for Autism and Early Childhood Mental Health. We have a talented, experienced, and dedicated team who are dedicated to bringing the most helpful resources to parents, families, and the professionals who work with them. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this helps you find some peaceful, calm, enjoyable moments with your children. We're wishing you and all of your family safety and the best health.